The Four Noble Truths serve as the very bedrock of the Buddha's teachings. These four insights, seemingly simple on the surface, are actually so profound that a person could dedicate their entire life to fully understanding just one of them. The Pali term for truth, sakka, also carries the weight of meaning, reality, or that which is actual. Therefore, the Four Noble Truths aren't just abstract philosophical concepts to blindly believe in or passively accept. Rather, the Buddha presented them as scientific truths, akin to gravity, evolution, or the fundamental laws of thermodynamics. The Four Noble Truths represent objective, fundamental aspects of reality that the Buddha realized when he achieved enlightenment. To remain ignorant of these truths, he explained, is to essentially sleepwalk through life, perpetually repeating the same mistakes without realizing that they are the very things that bring about suffering. It's certainly no accident that these four truths are referred to as noble. Simply hearing them is the very first step on a path that, one day, will undoubtedly lead you to becoming an awakened being, a Buddha, yourself. So, let's delve into the Four Noble Truths of the Buddha and explore how these ancient teachings can bring immense value to our own lives as sentient beings grappling with the enigma that is life. The first noble truth states that life is filled with dukkha. Now, what exactly is dukkha? The majority of people translate this Pali word as suffering, but that's only partially accurate, and it can even be a little misleading. Suffering is a very strong word in the English language, one that we reserve for only the most extreme occasions. We might say we've had a stressful day at work, or that we're annoyed that we lost our headphones, or that we regret not talking to our crush back in high school. Life is certainly filled with such unpleasant experiences, but to characterize them as suffering would be something of an overstatement. The Buddha did mean these kinds of experiences when he used the word dukkha, but he also meant so much more. For example, misplacing your keys is dukkha, but so is the loss of a loved one. Regretting your choice of lunch is dukkha, and so is regretting 30 years spent in an unhappy marriage. Stubbing your toe is dukkha, and so is experiencing a lifelong trauma. The core idea here is that dukkha can be translated as suffering, but it can also be understood as dissatisfaction, discomfort, stress, or simply unpleasantness. All of these things fall under the umbrella of dukkha, but dukkha is actually none of them specifically. Dukkha is a much deeper word than any single English translation can fully convey. It's a term used in Buddhism to point to a profound reality of life, namely, that we never truly get everything that we want. And even if we do manage to get what we want, we inevitably end up losing it one day. This is the essence of the first noble truth of Buddhism. But it's not only unpleasant things that constitute dukkha. The Buddha explained to his disciples that even pleasure, both material and spiritual, is dukkha. The pleasure you experience during an orgasm is dukkha. The joy you feel when seeing your child being born is dukkha. Even the pleasure of learning about the Buddha's teachings is dukkha. Why is this? Because none of these things ever last forever. Think about it. Whatever happiness and pleasure you achieve in life, whether it's something material or something spiritual, it will all inevitably disappear one day. And when it's gone, it will leave you with the pain of being separated from it. Thus, all the happiness and pleasure you find in this world carries within it the very seed of dukkha. And you will experience this dukkha, if not now, then at some point in the future. This isn't just an opinion, it's a fundamental reality of life. You see, the first noble truth of Buddhism is much more profound and darker than most people initially realize. It doesn't just say that there is unhappiness in life. It says that even the things we believe to be happiness are really just a delayed form of unhappiness. Pleasure is simply a mask worn by pain, achievement is just a mask for disappointment, and happiness is a mask for dukkha. Now, At this point, you might be thinking, wait a minute. Sure, happiness is fleeting, but so is unhappiness. Why did the Buddha focus so heavily on dukkha and not equally on its opposite? Isn't this an unfairly pessimistic view? To that, I would respond, please be patient, we're only at the first of the Four Noble Truths, after all. I would also argue that there's some value in focusing on the darker aspects of life. After all, dukkha is the universal problem that all sentient beings face, regardless of time or place. In his excellent book What the Buddha Taught, Walpole'thero writes, one physician may gravely exaggerate an illness and give up hope altogether. Another may ignorantly declare that there is no illness and that no treatment is necessary, thus deceiving the patient with a false consolation. You may call the first one pessimistic and the second optimistic. Both are equally dangerous. But a third physician diagnoses the symptoms correctly, understands the cause and the nature of the illness, sees clearly that it can be cured, and courageously administers a course of treatment, thus saving his patient. The Buddha is like the last physician. Walpole'thero, What the Buddha Taught. But what exactly did the Buddha do after he discovered that existence is riddled with dukkha? Surely, someone with a less resilient mind would have simply collapsed into nihilism at that point. After all, if everywhere you turn there's only dukkha and more dukkha, what's the point of anything? A Western nihilist might recommend ending one's own life at this point. But for the Buddha, even that wouldn't provide a real escape. The Buddha was, after all, convinced of the reality of rebirth and the law of karma. Taking one's own life, as an act of violence, would only result in being reborn into an even worse existence, where dukkha is even more intense. So, trapped in this seemingly endless maze of dukkha, what could the Buddha possibly do to improve his situation? Well, he did exactly what he advises all of us to do. He directed his trained mind squarely at dukkha. He looked, and looked, and looked deeply. And there, right in the heart of dukkha, he discovered the second noble truth, thirst. The second noble truth states that the cause and origin of dukkha is thirst. You see, the Sanskrit word for thirst is trishna. And it's no coincidence that the two words sound so similar. Thirst actually derives from trishna, and both words mean essentially the same thing. So, what exactly did the Buddha mean by thirst, and why did he identify it as the root cause of dukkha? Well, think about all the negative experiences you've ever had, no matter how big or small. A breakup, a car accident, a failed exam, a funeral. No matter how different they might seem on the surface, these experiences all share one common thread. That is, in each instance, you wanted your experience to be different from what it actually was. This is thirst, the fundamental desire for reality to be something other than what it is. Now, pay close attention to this. It's not the thirst for the wrong things, but thirst itself that creates dukkha. A monk may thirst for enlightenment, a lover for their beloved, a woman for a child, or a Wall Street trader for a bigger paycheck. One person may thirst out of love, while another may thirst out of hatred. The specifics don't actually matter. Thirst, in and of itself, is always the origin of dukkha. Whatever we thirst for ultimately brings us dukkha because we don't have it. And even if we do manage to get what we want, it's never quite as good as we imagined it would be. And even if what we attain is as good as we imagined, or even better, it still never lasts. The paths of desire are many and winding, but they all inevitably lead to the gates of dukkha. And it gets even worse than that. Thirst is an addiction. When our desires lead to dissatisfaction, we don't simply give up on them. On the contrary, we often convince ourselves that only by desiring and attaining even more things can we finally achieve lasting happiness. Of course, this never actually happens. Every desire comes with the promise of a better life. But desire is like the mythical monster Hydra, cut off one of its heads, and two more instantly grow in its place. Every desire simply fuels yet more desire, until we're all consumed by the fire of dukkha. In the fire sermon, the Buddha tells his disciples, all is burning, monks. All is burning. Now, the Buddha does distinguish between some desires as being better than others. For example, the desire to become a better, more responsible person is generally more productive and less harmful than the desire for alcohol. However, as one progresses along the path of awakening, one must ultimately learn to detach themselves from even their spiritual ambitions. The truly amazing thing is that the Buddha designed his teachings in such a way that one needs to learn all of it through dedicated and prolonged practice, and then one should ultimately let go of it entirely. The Buddha illustrates this point through his famous simile of the raft. He describes his teachings as a raft that you use to cross a dangerous river. But what should you do once you've safely reached the other shore? Do you continue to carry the raft around with you? Of course not. That would only make it harder for you to continue your journey. It's the same way with the Dhamma, the teachings of the awakened one. At first, you must put great effort into learning it, and it will save you from a great deal of suffering. But once you've advanced far enough, it will only hinder your progress to remain attached to teachings, concepts, and practices, even those taught by the Buddha himself. A frequent criticism of Buddhist doctrine goes something like this: if desire is so harmful, why do Buddhists tell you that nirvana is so desirable? This question might seem like it points to some inherent flaw in the Buddha's teachings, but it's actually the question itself that is fundamentally flawed. It's like asking, when a fire goes out, where does it go? It's an invalid question. It uses words in a nonsensical way that only appears to make sense if you don't truly understand their meaning. If one truly understands what it means for a fire to go out, one wouldn't ask where the fire has gone. Similarly, if one has a proper understanding of what nirvana is, one wouldn't suggest that it's an object of desire. But what is nirvana, then? And if it represents the culmination of Buddhist practice, how can it not be an object of desire? To answer this, we need to examine the third noble truth that the Buddha discovered. If the first noble truth gives us the symptom, dukkha, and the second noble truth gives us the disease that all people suffer from, thirst, then the remaining two truths will tell us about the possibility of curing ourselves and what that cure actually is. Indeed, the third noble truth is one of the most extraordinary and life-affirming claims ever made. It's the claim that it's possible for a human being to reality and permanently and free from all thirst and all dukkha. The third noble truth stems directly from the Buddha's own experience following his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. It was, in fact, something even more real than what we typically consider to be real in our everyday lives. The Buddha discovered a perfect reality that is always and everywhere present, provided we have the eyes to see it. He called this reality nirvana. Nirvana is not only difficult, but actually impossible to fully explain in words. We've created words to describe the illusory world that we experience through our senses, but nirvana is that which lies beneath all appearances. Words can only circle around it, but they can never actually enter it and survive, like moths fluttering around a flame. This can make some people feel uneasy. The great German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote that mystical explanations are considered deep. The truth is that they are not even superficial. To him, nirvana might sound like a made-up concept used to attract the naive and confuse those who criticize the Buddha. But, in defense of the Buddha, let's conduct a thought experiment. Imagine living on an island inhabited entirely by colorblind people and being the only one who can see colors. You might try to explain to the others what colors are and that they're present everywhere at all times. But all you'd likely accomplish is convincing them that you're either a madman or a deluded mystic. Do you see what I'm getting at? To truly understand the Dhamma, we must acknowledge that what confuses us about it may simply be the Buddha speaking about colors that we aren't yet able to perceive. Adopting this kind of attitude will allow us to discuss difficult terms like nirvana, even if none of us possesses a complete understanding of them. So, what can we say about nirvana? The literal meaning of the Sanskrit word nirvana is to extinguish or to blow out. For example, when a fire goes out, it nirvanas, so to speak. Nirvana isn't a state or a thing, but rather a transition. Therefore, when people say that the Buddha attained nirvana, this is a bit misleading. It's more accurate to say that the Buddha extinguished himself. He, so to speak, nirvana-ed. But what exactly is extinguished during nirvana? Well, the complete answer is very long and complex, and we'll save that for a separate video dedicated solely to nirvana. The short answer is that nirvana is the extinguishing of thirst. All likes and dislikes, all desire and attachment, all hatred, greed, and delusion, all sense of being a separate self. These are the flames that turn our lives into a living hell, and they all go out during nirvana. So, you see, it's actually nonsensical to say that nirvana is something you desire. Nirvana, by definition, is the end of all desire. So, if you desire nirvana, you're actually desiring a false idea in your imagination of what nirvana is like. This, too, is something that you must ultimately let go of if you wish to end dukkha. In fact, even the desire to be free of dukkha must end if you truly wish to end dukkha. I know, the deeper we delve into this, the more inadequate words become. This might make nirvana sound like some kind of supernatural, extraordinary state that only meditation masters can enter. But remember that Arctic Monkeys album called Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not. That's kind of like a description of nirvana. And I'm not talking about the band Nirvana. Let me once again cite Walpola Theroux, who puts it beautifully. It is incorrect to think that nirvana is the natural result of the extinction of craving. Nirvana is not the result of anything. If it would be a result, then it would be an effect produced by a cause. Nirvana is neither cause nor effect. It is beyond cause and effect. Truth is not a result nor an effect. It is not produced like a mystic, spiritual, mental state. Truth is. Nirvana is. The only thing you can do is to see it, to realize it. There is a path leading to the realization of nirvana. But nirvana is not the result of this path. You may get to the mountain along a path, but the mountain is not the result, not an effect of the path. You may see a light, but the light is not the result of your eyesight. Walpola Theroux, What the Buddha Taught. Nirvana is a noble truth, it's a fundamental aspect of our reality. When we live in ignorance, nirvana sounds strange and outlandish to us. But someone who has removed the beam from their own eye, someone who has cultivated wisdom, can see what has been there all along. And the Buddha didn't just tell people about nirvana and then leave them hanging. No, like a skilled doctor, he provided detailed instructions on how one should live in order to end the disease of dukkha. His followers compiled all the instructions that the Buddha gave on various occasions. The early disciples memorized and organized these teachings into a system that they began to call the path. This system had 8 major components, and so they called it the Noble Eightfold Path. It's this very path that constitutes the fourth and final noble truth. Now, I'm a Christian, and where I come from, we use a specific word for a wrong action. We call it a sin. But the word sin, especially in the old days, didn't only apply to something that was wrong in the eyes of God. It had a more general meaning that applied to things that were simply flawed, such as a poorly written poem or an arrow that couldn't fly straight. We have this same concept in the Eightfold Noble Path, the fourth noble truth of Buddhism. This path is based on the idea that there's a wrong way of living that creates dukkha, and a right way of living that can reduce dukkha until it's finally gone forever. This division between wrong and right actions isn't based on the Buddha's subjective opinion. Rather, it's an almost scientific theory that's based on evidence that you can examine for yourself. In the eyes of the Buddha, most people are essentially sleepwalking through life, lost in delusion. Thus, without even realizing it, they live in a way that creates dukkha. The Buddha's teachings were effectively a manual for how to live the right way and minimize dukkha for yourself and others. So, let's take a look at what this manual consists of. Right view means having the wisdom to see through the deluded words and actions of yourself and others. Just as it is today, so too has it always been that what culture celebrates as virtue and success is often actually a flaw or failure in disguise. No amount of material wealth, productivity, or pleasure can rid you of dukkha. In fact, these things often have the delayed effect of creating even more dukkha. To see this requires wisdom, and that's what's meant by right view. Right intention requires right view. Only after you see things as they actually are can you set the right kinds of goals for yourself. The Buddha realized that humanity is sick with endless thirst and dukkha, and so the best possible intention is to try to cure yourself and others of this illness. Once you see things as they are and have the right intentions, the way you speak, act, and live will be calibrated to lead you out of the maze of thirst and dukkha. And then we arrive at the final three branches of the path, which are a bit more technical. A lot of people, myself included, believe that you can only go so far in your understanding of Buddhism without having a meditation practice. This doesn't mean that meditation alone leads to nirvana, but it's a vital component of transforming one's perception of reality. It's telling that the last three aspects of the Eightfold Noble Path refer to the Buddhist practice of meditation. Buddhist meditation deserves a whole separate video, so for now, all we need to understand is that one needs to train and transform their mind in order to grasp the deeper teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha was a spirit healer, a mind healer, and meditation was his way of treating the human mind from the infection of ignorance and thirst. One needs to put significant effort into developing mindfulness and concentration in order to see through the false beliefs that are clouding their judgment. This is what's meant by right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The Eightfold Noble Path doesn't tell you specifically what to do. Rather, it's a description of what a fully awakened human being is like. All you can do is try to imitate this description until you gradually transform into an awakened human being yourself. And the 8 aspects of the path aren't sequential. Rather, they all depend on one another. One has right view only if one has right mindfulness. One has right mindfulness only if one has right concentration, and so on. As Walpola Thiru writes, the path is a way of life to be followed, practiced, and developed by each individual. It has nothing to do with belief, prayer, worship, or ceremony. It is a path leading to the realization of ultimate reality, to complete freedom, happiness, and peace through moral, spiritual, and intellectual perfection. Walpola Thiru, what the Buddha taught. In the interest of honesty, modern scholars don't believe that the 4 Noble Truths were taught as such by the historical Buddha. They're probably a later formulation created by the Buddha's disciples, who were looking for a memorable summary of his teachings. Whether this is true or not won't bring us any closer to freedom from dukkha. But taking these truths to heart in our everyday lives, that might just very well be good for us. Remember that the Buddha is just a nickname. It means the one who awoke. But think for a minute about what this actually means. It isn't just a metaphor. The Buddha tells us that there's a shift in consciousness that we can achieve which is comparable to waking up from sleep. He's talking about nothing less than a total transformation of one's reality. which begins and ends in one's consciousness. And this is a transformation towards truth, towards, so to say, real reality. It's the end of sleep, the end of the false stories, opinions, and beliefs that we all hold about ourselves. Most importantly, it's the end of dukkha. The Buddha, when he finally perfected his mind, saw that human existence is a nightmare, but then he awoke. His teachings since that day, these four noble truths, are like words he's whispering into our ears, trying to awaken us, too. The good news is that the nightmare is only a dream. What awaits us when we awaken is true reality, not only more perfect than we can imagine. So, I invite you to use this video as a jumping-off point for your own exploration into this deep and noble tradition that we call Buddhism. If you're up for another deep dive, check out my video on the Buddhist teaching of no self. It's a much earlier video that I made, but it's also the most watched on this channel. And while you're still listening, I want to thank you for spending your time watching and helping me continue to make this kind of content. I'm now trying to turn this YouTube project into a full-time effort, and I would deeply appreciate it if you would support me with even the smallest donation on Patreon. So thank you again, and remember Rumi's words, what you seek is seeking you. See you next time.